Buying beer in the supermarket today is a choice between a watered-down version of a big brand you used to trust and a passion fruit and birthday cake IPA in a can that looks like shower gel. What used to feel like a simple choice now apparently requires a master's degree in flavor profiles. And whilst there's a great selection of independent brands out there, if you think choosing the funky brand is supporting a small business, there's something you should know. In 2025, 137 independent breweries closed. And whilst the breweries closed, the brand names get bought and printed on a beer brewed somewhere else. So you keep buying, they keep selling, and your money is swallowed up by four massive multinationals responsible for nearly 70% of the UK's beer market. I've taken the noble sacrifice of testing Britain's beer on your behalf. And no, I didn't just use this as an excuse to get merry. I researched the brands, the history, ownership, and recipe changes. What I found was genuinely shocking. So here are 12 beers you should leave on the shelf and the 5 that are worth it. Number 12, Grolsch. And you're in the beer aisle on a Friday and the green bottles are up on the shelf where the dearer lagers live. Grolsch is a name you've paid extra for most of your life. Dutch Pilsner, the grown-up choice, the one you put in your trolley when there's someone coming round. The word premium is in the name of the beer. That's the promise on the front of your pack. You're buying the good one. Then the recipe moved. The grocer reported in October 2024 that Asahi UK had reformulated Grolsch Premium Pilsner from 4% down to 3.4%. Asahi told the paper that after much analysis, it had decided on the new strength and that the beer went into market earlier this year. Read that back. It was in your fridge before it was in the news. Here's the machine underneath that, and I'll explain it once because it is the engine under every strength cut in this video. On the 1st of August 2023, the government rebuilt alcohol duty. Drink is now taxed in bans, by strength charged per litre of pure alcohol. And there's a line drawn through the middle of those bans. Under the rates in force now, HM Revenue and Customs charges £9.96 per litre of pure alcohol on a beer of at least 1.3% and below 3.5. At 3.5 and up to 8.5, it charges £22.58. Same brewery, same can. 2 tax bills, and one of them is less than half the other. You know, shrinkflation. You can see shrinkflation. The bag looks emptier and you feel daft for not clocking it sooner. Nothing shrank here. Your can is the same can at the same price in the same spot on the same shelf. So a brewer who takes a 4% lager down to 3.4 hasn't changed a bottle size, a price, or a font. He's changed which side of that line his beer stands on. That one line in a tax table started a race to the bottom, and it's being run in tenths of a percent. And the tax office is not exactly rushing to tell you how that worked out. It opened an evaluation of its own reform in April 2026 and asked for evidence on changes in product strength since August 2023. It hasn't published what came back. The timing, in its own words, is to be confirmed. Grolsch at 3.4% isn't a bad lager. Asahi says it's confident the beer still delivers an excellent premium beer that will appeal to a broad range of consumers. Nobody has put anything nasty in your bottle, and that was never the charge. The con isn't in the glass. Premium isn't a recipe anymore. It's the one word on the label that survived the cut. Number 11. John Smith's. This is the plain one. No mountains, no imported vowels, no story about a monastery. You order it because it's the pint your dad ordered, and because there's nothing on the pump clip pretending to be anything. That plainness is the sell, an honest beer for people who don't want to be sold to. It's the last pint on your bar you'd expect to be doing something clever. Look at what it was worth. The grocer reported on the 1st of February 2024 that Heineken UK was taking John Smith's Extra Smooth from 3.6% down to 3.4%, in cans from the 29th of January, on draft from the 5th of February. Heineken UK said it had made the decision to brew Extra Smooth at a slightly lower strength because consumers are increasingly choosing lower strength products as part of a balanced lifestyle. Then the grocer did the arithmetic on the duty. On the packaged version alone, it calculated that the saving would exceed £10 million. 10 million. Off 0.2% on a pint you'd never have thought to question. Now hold that against what happened to the price. The campaign for Real Ale's own magazine, What's Brewing, reported on the 2nd of February 2024 that Heineken UK put the price of all its draft beers up by 1.73% from that day. I'm not going to tell you those two things are the same decision, because nobody has shown me that they are. I'll just tell you they landed in the same week, and only one of them was announced to you. 0.2 of a percentage point is a small change. Small is the whole design. Nobody complains about small. Nobody writes to a brewery about small. You'd never find small in the bottom of your glass. And small is where £10 million was sitting. That's not your balanced lifestyle. That's theirs. Number 10. Sol. Sol is a holiday. You buy it in June when the weather turns, you stand it in a bucket of ice in your garden, and for about 4 days a year, it's the most optimistic bottle in the shop. Nobody's claiming it's a serious beer. It's sunshine with a barcode, and it costs you what a nice thing costs. Listen to how the change was described. Heineken UK announced on the 15th of January 2025 that it would take Sol from 4.2% down to 3.4%, with production at the new strength from the 25th of February. And in announcing it, the company said its master brewers have taken great care to make sure that consumers will notice no change, citing what it called a long-held position of promoting moderation. That first phrase isn't a claim about the beer, it's a claim about you. It's a company telling its own trade press, in writing, that the care went into making sure you wouldn't spot it. Not that your beer is better, not that your beer has gone downhill, that you will notice no change. A weaker lager is not a bad thing in itself. Plenty of people are drinking less on purpose, and they're right to. Moderation you choose is one thing. Moderation chosen for you and engineered so you can't feel it happen is a different thing wearing the same word. Not noticing wasn't a risk they took. It's the specification they wrote. Number 9. Coors. Coors sells cold. Everything about it, the packaging, the advertising, the whole personality of the thing, is built on a mountain in winter. And there you are at the fridge at the end of the aisle, reaching past 4 other lagers to get your hands on it. It's a big, confident American brand, doing what big, confident brands do. Investing in itself, that's the word to hold on to. Investing. The grocer reported on the 25th of April 2025 that Molson Coors had cut Coors from 4% to 3.4%, alongside a £6 million brand investment. Molson Coors described the shift as part of its commitment to offering more choice to consumers through its broad range of beers and ciders, including zero and lower alcohol options. So the cut arrived dressed as generosity. More choice for you, £6 million of it. And here's a detail that tells you something on its own. Neither trade paper that covered it gives a date for when the beer actually changed, only for when it was reported. The Morning Advertiser's roundup that November still dates it to April 2025. Nobody wrote to you because nobody had to. The £6 million is real money and it's being spent. That's true, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. It just isn't being spent on what's in your glass. The investment isn't in the beer, it's in the story told about the beer. Number 8. Camden Town. You pick up a can of Hell's and you know exactly what you're buying, because the brand tells you on every surface it owns. Its Own About Us page opens on the founder Jasper Cuppage, who started Camden because he wanted beer to be better. And 4 words written across the page. A brewery in Camden. That's the entire proposition. A real place, a real man, a railway arch in North London. Now look at the paperwork. The Public Register, Companies House, shows that Camden Town Brewery Limited was dissolved on the 24th of October 2023. The company whose name is on your can does not exist. The beer carried on being sold to you because the beer was never the thing that was bought. And on that same register, read on the 5th of August 2026, control of it runs upward through Camden Brewing Group Limited, then ZX Ventures Limited, then ABI UK Holding One Limited, each of them holding 75% or more of the one below. Meanwhile, the story on the website stops dead. The timeline on that page runs 2006, 2007, 2009, spring 2010, autumn 2010, and ends. The 2015 sale isn't on it. The owner appears once in the copyright line at the very bottom of the page, which reads, AB InBev UK Limited. Hold that name for one more beer because it's the only place in this video where a strength goes back up. The Morning Advertiser reported in September 2025 that Boddington's in Keg and Can is 3.4%, brewed by AB InBev's British arm, Budweiser Brewing Group. No source I could find says when the keg and the can got there or why, but the same report said J.W. Lee's would put Boddington's back on cask at 4% for Cask Ale Week. J.W. Lee's Michael Lees-Jones said of that cask version that it's more premium, slightly stronger than it used to be on cask. Stronger than it used to be. Not the old strength coming back. A brewer who doesn't own the name putting Boddingtons above what the cask used to be, while the people who do own the name sit at 3.4. Dissolving a company isn't by itself a scandal. Big groups tidy their paperwork constantly and nothing sinister has to be behind it. What's worth your attention is the page they wrote for you, not the form they filed. That's not a brewery in Camden. That's a trademark with a postcode painted on it. Number 7. Beavertown. You're holding a 4-pack of neck oil and everything about it says Small London Hours. The artwork does the talking. This is one of the 10 brands the Campaign for Real Ale singled out in its report Beer in the UK, published on the 2nd of July 2026, as brands large corporations portray as craft beers. The register is not shy about it. Companies House records Heineken UK Limited as a person with significant control of Beavertown Brewery Limited, notified on the 22nd of August 2025. 75% or more of the shares, 75% or more of the voting rights, the right to appoint and remove directors. The previous person with significant control ceased on the same day. That's the register formalising something already announced. Heineken UK took full ownership in September 2022, saying at the time that Beavertown would carry on being operated separately with its own teams. Then there's the brand's own About Us page. Read on the 5th of August 2026. It tells the origin story and never names the owner in the telling. The word independent doesn't appear anywhere on it. And the word Heineken appears exactly 5 times, all 5 inside the site's general purchasing terms and conditions, in the phrase a Heineken Group company. So the ownership is in writing on the brewery's own website 5 times over. And Beavertown has never told you it's independent. It doesn't use the word at all. What it uses on the can in your hand is a font, a skull and a name that sounds like a shed at the bottom of somebody's garden. That's not an independent brewery, that's a Heineken brand with a better art department. Number 6. Brixton. You buy it because it says Brixton on it. That's not a criticism of you, that's the point of the beer. It's a local success story, brewed under a railway arch, and its own About Us page still calls it that. Humble and proud to be a local success story made in Brixton. The same page says, in the present tense, we remain family-run by the original founders. Now read the rest of the page. The page's own milestone for 2021 says the brewery moved to full ownership. On its face, that reads like the founders taking the lot. It isn't. 2 lines later, the same page spells it out. After 3 years of working with Heineken, they went into full partnership, selling the brewery fully with the founders still operating and leading Brixton Brewery independently. Selling the brewery fully. That's their wording. On their site, right underneath a sentence about being family-run. The register agrees with the second version. Companies House records Heineken UK Limited holding 75% or more of the shares in Brixton Brewery Limited, notified on the 24th of November 2017. The 3 founders are each recorded as having ceased on that same day. And the arch. The grocer reported on the 30th of August 2024 that Brixton would close its Dillon Road production site in Loughborough Junction and move production to Beavertown in Enfield, North London, citing outgrown capacity, an expiring lease and Enfield's efficiency standards. The taproom and the original arch on Brixton Station Road were to be kept for limited edition brewing. That was an announced intention, and I'm not going to tell you the last barrel has moved, because nobody has shown me that either. But Enfield is not Brixton. It's North London. And it's the same brewery Heineken took full ownership of in 2022. The founders did stay, they still lead it, they say so themselves, and the arch is still described on their page as somewhere they brew. That's not nothing, and you shouldn't let anyone tell you it is. Family run isn't a fact about who owns it. It's a fact about who still answers the phone. Number 5, Doom Bar. This one is sold on a place, and the place is real. Sharp's own website reads Born of the Coast. It invites you to visit them in Rock and offers you fresh cask beer, brewed right here in Rock, delivered to your door. Even the name is Cornish geography. Molson Kerr's own page will tell you Doom Bar is named after the notoriously dangerous sandbank at the mouth of the Camel Estuary in North Cornwall. You reach for it because it is the Cornish one on a shelf full of nowhere in particular. The bottle isn't Cornish. The Society of Independent Brewers carried an exclusive from the trade title Just Drinks on the 16th of June, 2015. Molson Coors had shifted brewing of the bottled edition of Doom Bar to Burton-upon-Trent in Staffordshire, and Molson Coors' own marketing director Martin Coyle said the beer had in fact been brewed in Burton for 2 years already, because there was no space for a bottling line in Cornwall. The cask beer stayed in Cornwall at that point. The bottle in your hand had been coming from the Midlands for 2 years before anybody printed a word about it. As for who owns the sandbank now, Molson Coors' own locations page, read on the 5th of August 2026, says simply, it has been owned by Molson Coors since 2011. The Morning Advertiser reported at the time in February 2011 that Molson Coors was believed to have paid around £20 million for Sharps. And on the Sharps consumer website today, the word Molson does not appear anywhere in the homepage text. Not once. The same online shop that sells you Doom Bar will also sell you Cobra Zero and Miller Genuine Draft. The brewery in Rock was still brewing the cask beer when that report was written. This isn't a rip-off in pounds and pence either. Nobody has overcharged you for a bottle of bitter. Cornwall is in this beer somewhere. It just isn't in the bottle you're holding. Cornwall isn't where that bottle comes from. It's what that bottle is called. And it sharpens the question we started with about whether paying more gets you either of the two things, who brews it or the strength. Hold it there. We settle it at the end. Number 4, meantime. Greenwich. The place the world sets its clocks by, and a brewery that took its name from it and built everything it sells on being from there. When you pick that bottle up, the borough is the product. That is the whole of the pitch. Then Asahi wrote it down. The campaign for Real Ale's London magazine, London Drinker, reported on the 26th of March 2024 what Asahi UK had said 3 weeks earlier. On the 6th of March, Asahi UK Today proposes to bring production of all its local beer brands together under one brewing operation at the Griffin Brewery in Chiswick. Proposes. That's the word. And I'm keeping it. 13 days after that statement, on the 19th of March 2024, Companies House records Meantime Brewing Company Limited as dissolved, with its registered office given as the Griffin Brewery, Chiswick. And MeantimeBrewing.com carried a footer on the 5th of August 2026, describing it as a subsidiary of Asahi Europe. All its local beer brands, that phrase covers Dark Star too, another Asahi brand, and Dark Star is where this stops being about companies. And the Morning Advertiser reported on the 27th of August 2024 that Asahi had taken Dark Star's hophead from 3.8% down to 3.4%. The same report said the paper understood the wholesale price to pubs would not be coming down. And it quoted a publican, one of the people who has to sell the stuff, saying he found it a bit cheeky they just send out a new badge with a note asking us to change the badge. Sit with that for a second, because it's the only moment in this entire video where the change physically arrives somewhere. Not an announcement, not a press release, a parcel. Inside it, a new pump badge and a note asking the landlord to fit it himself. So he does, he unscrews the old badge and screws on the new one. And the next pint he pulls you across his own bar is 0.4% weaker than the one he pulled you the week before. The paper understood he'd paid the same for it. That's what all of this looks like by the time it reaches the floor. Not greed in a boardroom, a man with a screwdriver. Asahi's answer, in the same piece, was that moving to 3.4 and entering the lower duty threshold supports its ability to invest in Dark Star and to keep growing Hophead as a national brand. That is their case, and you've now heard it. It was still the landlord holding the screwdriver. No, nobody wrote to you about it. Somebody posted him a badge. Number 3. London Pride. If you had to name one London beer, it's this one. It's the 4-pack you put in your trolley when you want something that isn't a lager and isn't a gimmick. The whole value of that name is that it's been the same for longer than you've been drinking. It was sold entire. Beverage Daily reported on the 25th of January 2019 that Fuller's was selling its entire beer business to Asahi Europe for an enterprise value of £250 million. The Griffin Brewery went, Dark Star went, Cornish Orchards went. Fuller, Smith and Turner kept the pubs. So the company you think of as Fuller's still exists, and it is a pub company now. The clearest trace of it is on the register. Companies House shows a company incorporated in January 2019, named the Fuller's Beer Company Limited that same month, renamed Asahi UK Holdings 3 months later, and trading today as Asahi UK Limited. Same registered office throughout, the Griffin Brewery, Chiswick Lane South. Same brewery, same address, the name over the door changed from Fuller's to Asahi inside 4 months. And the London Pride website, read on the 5th of August 2026, carries a footer naming it a subsidiary of Asahi Europe. Now the part that makes all 12 of these possible. Turn a can of beer over in the shop and compare it with anything else in your trolley. Under the food labelling law that governs the rest of that trolley, any drink over 1.2% alcohol is let off 2 specific things: the list of ingredients and the nutrition declaration. It isn't banned from printing them, it simply doesn't have to. Allergens stay compulsory, which is why they turn up as a bare statement instead. The word contains, and then the name of the thing. Contains barley. In law, that is a complete ingredients disclosure for a British beer. And there's a carve-out inside the carve-out. Isinglass is fish. It's used to clear beer. Fish is a declarable allergen, but the annex to that same regulation writes isinglass and fish gelatine out of the fish rule by name when they're used as fining agents in beer and wine. The campaign for real ale puts the effect plainly. It can be incredibly difficult to know whether a beer has used isinglass unless it says it's suitable for vegans, none of which is being fixed in a hurry. Asked about mandatory calorie and nutrition labelling on alcohol, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Ashley Dalton, answered on the 2nd of March 2026 that her department is working towards opening a consultation in late 2026. Not a rule. A consultation in late 2026 on a label that everything else in your basket has carried for years. The people whose job it is to make that pack tell you something are still working towards asking whether it ought to. A label that must name your allergen and needn't name anything else is not fit for purpose. Fuller's did tell you. The sale was announced, it was reported, and the parent's name is still on the brand's website today. That's more than Camden manages. That's not a London Brewers beer, that's a London Brewers signature, and somebody else owns the pen. Number 2. Thexton. 2 initials and a surname. T&R Thexton. From a brewery in Masham, up in North Yorkshire, and a bottle of Old Peculiar that your family buys you every Christmas because you once said you liked it in 1994. Nothing about that reads corporate. You reach past the lagers for it in the supermarket, precisely because it looks like the one thing on the shelf nobody has got to yet. It reads like a family firm that's been left alone. Look it up anyway. Companies House records Heineken UK Limited as an active person with significant control of T&R Thexton Limited. More than 25% of the shares, not more than 50. Notified on the 6th of April 2016, and still there when the register was read on the 5th of August 2026. Be careful with what that does and doesn't say, because I'm not going to overstate it to make a better story. A holding of that size is a significant minority. It is not ownership, and it is not control, and nobody has claimed it is. But that's exactly the thing worth understanding about a public register. It shows you the holdings big enough that somebody was made to write them down. What it doesn't do is draw you a picture of who owns a brewery. It draws you the outline of whoever couldn't stay off it. And Thexton has done the honest version of the thing this whole video is about, which deserves saying out loud. It launched a brand new beer, Quencher Session Pale, at 3.4%. New product, new strength, sold as what it is. Richard Bradbury of T&R Thexton told the Morning Advertiser in November 2025 that they saw an opportunity to create a new product that benefited from the lower duty and could be sold to their pub customers at a lower cost. There it is, a lower duty, a lower price, and a beer that never pretended to your face to be the old one. The name on the bottle is a family. The name on the register isn't. Number 1. Carling. You know this one without looking at it. It's the 4-pack you put in your trolley without thinking. For the garden, for the football, for people coming over. Its own brand director, Ryan McLaughlin, calls Carling Britain's leading core lager brand. Cheap, familiar, unpretentious, and enormous. There's a good chance there's some in your fridge tonight. From October, it's 3.4%. The grocer reported on the 28th of July 2026 that Molson Coors will cut Carling from 4% to 3.4% in the shops from October 2026. The figures behind it are ugly. Measured by the market research firm NIQ over the 52 weeks to the 18th of April 2026, Carling's value sales were down 15.6%. And 5.5 months before that announcement, in February 2026, Molson Coors announced Carling Black Label at 4.7%. In its own words, a premium British lager offering the opportunity to trade up in 4 packs of pint cans. The Guardian's Pass Notes column, the day after the cut was announced, described the company as having created a value premium price ladder within the Carling brand. In plain English, the strength you used to get as standard is now the one you pay extra for. None of this is new. It happened before, and this time it wasn't inferred from a register or a footer. It was found in a courtroom and written down. In April 2017, the first-tier tribunal, the Tax Court, released its decision in Molson Coors Brewing Company, UK Limited, against HM Revenue and Customs. It concerned a change made from September 2012 in how the company calculated the duty it paid on its beer. By the strength the beer was actually brewed to, rather than the strength printed on the label. The brewing manager gave evidence that the target strength Carling was brewed to was 3.77%. The operating limits ran from 3.6 to 4.4, and the law, then and now, allows a beer of this strength to differ from its label by half a percentage point in either direction. Then the tribunal set out what the purpose of the change was. In its own words, it was to reduce the company's cost base and prevent its customers, who were not aware of the reduction in strength, from, as Mr. Rutherford put it, demanding a slice of the cost saving. Read that back. Customers there means the businesses Molson Coors sells to, not you at the till. The tribunal used a different word for drinkers, and I'm keeping its distinction. But the shape of it doesn't change. A tribunal, weighing evidence, recorded that part of the point of the exercise was that the people buying it didn't know, and therefore couldn't ask for a share. Now the other side of it, all of it, because this one has a proper other side. Molson Coors won. The appeal was allowed. The same tribunal found that what the company had done did not contravene the statutory labelling requirements, and it found the company had been careful not to alienate consumers who, taste tests indicated, preferred the beer at the lower strength. HM Revenue and Customs had assessed duty of £40,911,423 against the company. Molson Coors beat the lot. It was lawful. Every bit of it was lawful, and lawful isn't the same as honest. A rule that leaves that much room in it is a disgrace of its own, and you're the one standing under it in the aisle. That is not a rumour about the beer in your fridge. That is a finding of fact in a judgment, with a name attached to it. 5 beers now, named, priced, and on a shelf you can reach this week. And the money gets settled first because the honest answer isn't the comfortable one. Paying more doesn't buy you either of the two things. On Sainsbury's own listings on the 5th of August 2026, in 1-pack size, 4 cans of 440 millilitres, the own-label lager worked out at £1.31 a litre. The dearest Madry Exceptional ran to £3.75, and sitting neatly in between them at £2.59 was Grolsch, number 12 on this list. There's no price you can pay that tells you who brews a beer or what's happened to its strength. The premium shelf is not a safer shelf for you. It's a dearer one. One note before I name prices. These are what we found this week. They'll drift a few pence either way, but the verdicts won't. Start here because it's the whole point of the video. St. Austell Tribute. £2.55 for a 500 millilitre bottle in Tesco, £2.30 in Morrison's. St. Austell makes the same pitch Camden and Beavertown live on, an independent family brewer in Cornwall, brewing where it says it brews. The difference is what the paperwork does when you push it. On the company's house register for St. Austell Brewery Company Limited, there's no other company's name to find. What sits there instead is the brewery's own statement, notified in August 2016 and still active when the register was read on the 5th of August 2026. It knows of no registrable person and no registrable legal entity to record, nobody it has to name. One caution, and I'll give it to you straight. Independent does not mean small. St. Austell is a large brewer with a big estate behind it, and I'm not selling it to you as a cottage industry. It is simply the one on this shelf whose story survives a look at the register. Titanic Plum Porter. £2.30 in Morrison's, £2.75 in Waitrose for 500 millilitres. From Burslem in Stoke. And it's your answer to the strength question. 4.9% on the brewery's own pages back in 2021, before the duty bands changed. 4.9% today. The line was drawn, half the shelf shuffled underneath it, and this beer didn't move an inch. Here's the honest part, because you deserve the weakness as well as the pick. Titanic's company's house entry does not prove any of that. 2 named men are recorded as having ceased to be persons with significant control in October 2021, and the register has carried the company's own no registrable person statement ever since. A blank is not evidence, it is a blank. What actually stands Titanic up is the Society of Independent Brewers and Associates' own brewery finder, which lists Titanic Brewery Company Limited as an independent brewery. Be clear about what that is. It's a classification of who owns the place, not a membership role. The same finder carries breweries marked Heineken, and it marks Brewdog as a brew pub. So it stands up the independents. It doesn't make Titanic a member of theirs. And the Independent Family Brewers of Britain names Titanic on its own membership list, read on the 5th of August 2026. That's where the claim rests, and you should know which leg it's standing on. Lost and Grounded. Keller Pills from Bristol. Waitrose in 440 milliliter cans, and at roughly £6.80 a litre, it's the dearest thing I'm going to name. 4.8% on the brewery's own website in July 2022 before the duty bans changed. 4.8% on its own shop today. This one is here because of where the argument is. Nearly every strength cut on this list is a lager, so answering with a bitter concedes the ground before you start. This doesn't. It's a proper lager, at proper strength, and it's the one to put in front of anybody who tells you the honest answer is always an ale. The downside is the shop. Waitrose only, so if there isn't one near you, this is an online order rather than a Tuesday. Timothy Taylor's Landlord. Tesco and Waitrose around £5.10 a litre, 4.1% in the bottle, and 4.3% on the cask. Landlord is the same vintage of British beer as London Pride brewed in Cayley. The difference is that nobody sold it. Its company's house entry is the same kind of statement as Titanic's, and it carries the same limit, so lean on the other leg. Timothy Taylor's is one of the Independent Family Brewers of Britain, and no Asahi, no Heineken, and no holding company appears anywhere on its register. It also tells you things it doesn't have to. Its own allergens page says the vegan status covers the bottled and canned range minus Northern Rising, plus mini kegs and kegged Hoppical Storm. It does not cover the traditional cask beers, which still use isinglass finings as a clarification process aid. That's the fish carve-out from earlier, printed by the only people who'd ever have to admit to it. If you're vegan, buy the bottle and leave the cask. And if you do one thing off this list, do this one. Thornbridge Jaipur in Tesco, 4 cans of 330 millilitres, working out at about £4.77 a litre. It's 5.9% by the brewery's own shop. It's brewed in Bakewell in Derbyshire, and it's the one I'd put in your hand. And under Thornbridge Brewery Holdings Limited, the public register doesn't print a holding company. It prints a name you can read. James Robert Harrison, 75% or more of the shares, 75% or more of the votes. Read on the 5th of August 2026. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.